Chapter 21, from the castle window. Every night, placid as a trained rabbit, Staley the wolf followed Vilmos out into the dark woods, while his true master slept. There, at Vilmos's command, the wolf howled at the moon, and the magician rewarded him with more of that delicious powdered meat. When he ate it, branches of warm sleepiness grew in him like a tree, until he lay down, felled by its sweet, dull power. As Vilmos knew it would, the wolves of the forest answered Staley's howl. Wolfish muzzles appeared between the trees. Among the wolves were many of Sheka's pups, now fully grown and in packs of their own. The magician kept very still, radiating a controlling, calm presence. The wolves formed a little circle in the clearing. Vilmos had spent so many nights now studying wolf lore, and it was time to put it into practice. He chanted the vowel O deep and low. Ooh, ooh, till it shook the leaves from the trees and rumbled through the earth underfoot. The wolves smelled danger and began to pace. They also smelled the powdered meat. As they came forward to eat, the magician uttered the words of a spell he had learned from Iniko. In the mirror of near and far, in the distant narrow lands, the wicked sorcerer was watching. He does my bidding, which is the bidding of the dragon, Iniko said, rubbing his hands with pleasure. He stared into the reflection of the mirror. And the beauty of it is, he doesn't even know. Vilmos thinks he's doing it all by himself. Back in the clearing, the spell entered the wolves. Ears and their bodies, they ate and grew sleepy. The spell weakened their instincts. They grew stupid. Every night, the magician enchanted them. Soon, all the wolves of the forest were under his power. By the time Irina and William reached the royal city of Ragnar, the sun had come out from behind the clouds. The leather reins began to feel slippery in Irina's sweating hands. Travelling due west, Irina felt like they were riding straight into the harsh, tawny light. Squinting, she held her head up in the blinding sun as their horses cantered through the crowds that surged towards them. Now and then, the captain of the guard cracked his whip and let out an angry shout. "Stand back! Stand back! Let them pass!" But the people would not stand back. Their princess had returned from the den of wolves, and they wanted to see her. They grabbed at Irina's boots and clutched at her linen dress. "Irina, Irina, Irina, Irina," came their chant. "Stand back!" shouted Captain Kellen again, and the whip lashed at the crowds, but it only served to make them wilder, and their chants even louder. "Not long now," came William's reassuring voice, still on the horse behind Irina. "Keep steady, girl." Ragnar Castle took shape ahead of them, silhouetted against the light. "Almost there," whispered Irina. Someone grabbed her leg and pulled so hard that she almost fell. Instinctively she kicked out and righted herself on the mare. She made Adriel wheel right and left, and people scattered to escape the horse's hoofs. Yet as soon as the mare straightened, the crowd heaved forward and someone else lunged at her from the other side. Again Irina kicked, anger rising up in her. Clutching the reins, she breathed deeply. It would not do to lose her temper. Amicus flew down to her shoulder. With all the strength she could muster, she cried, "Let me pass! Let me meet the king and queen." To Irina's surprise, the crowds obeyed and drew back. Watching from the castle window, King Harmon was likewise surprised at the girl's composure. To have presence of mind in a surging crowd was unusual in someone so young. But was she, could she possibly be, his daughter? At the Bear Ale House, in an oval room that smelled of beer and sweat, Prince Andor was listening keenly to what the villagers had to say. Men sat on rammed earth benches around a central fireplace, drinking ale from tankards. A hole in the roof let out the smoke. The beautiful vision of Irina on her horse kept running through Andor's mind. However, it was not enough to distract him from what was really nagging him. "I'm sure it's Trayton's ring that Radburn described," he thought, his stomach knotted with worry. "I hope to Jan I'm wrong, otherwise it means Trayton is really my father's enemy. What a powerful enemy he could be. He knows all our secrets." "The villagers are angry over in Ralston," a man said. "They'll fight too." "I don't know about all this," said the old innkeeper. "It's been a few years, but the dragon from the Narrowlands will attack us if Harmon and Nicholas are at war." Yes, thought Andor, here's someone speaking sense. "Maybe the king's used that threat to keep us under control," said a gruff voice. It was Radburn. Andor drew his head back into the hood of his cloak, hoping to remain unnoticed. "You try telling that nonsense to the mothers who lost their children to the dragon," said the old innkeeper. "The dragon will eat all our children if the Narrowlands army defeats ours." Andor had heard enough. Leaving his beer unfinished on the bench, he went outside and untied Langundo. "I'll ride home tonight," he thought. "There's no time to be lost in sleep. My father will know what to do." Although it was late in the day, the road was wide, and Andor reckoned he could ride during the night, even though he hated the dark. Soon enough, his thoughts returned to the girl on her mare. "I've seen her before," the young prince said to the trees as he passed. "Somewhere." The night was warm and silent. The only sound was Langundo's hoofs on the stones. Andor remembered the time he went hunting with his father and his men. He was only a boy, maybe 7 or 8. He had seen something, or someone, that day, squatting behind a rock. He'd stopped, curious about the little creature, barely human and wearing only rags, with hair shooting from its head like bristling wild grasses. He thought of his father's stories then, and wondered if she was some kind of troll. But maybe it was Irina, when she lived with the wolves. How could anyone survive such a thing and grow up to be a civilized human being, let alone a princess?